So I was kind of glad. It was a Sunday night. Thanksgiving was that coming Thursday. And I had been joking that he either needed to stay in or get out because I wasn't missing my apple pie. Hi everybody and welcome back. If this is your first time, I'm Amy. And this is...
Jacob.
Jacob. Today we're going to be filming the final story in the series of the birth of my children. So I've done birth stories for my youngest and for the older two. Jacob, however, we have not filmed yet. So today we're just going to talk about what it was like when Jacob was born.
Yeah. When I was a baby, and then I grew up to 4, but then when I was 4, then I grew up to 5.
He is going to be 5 soon.
Mommy, I am 5.
You're almost 5.
Mommy.
A few more days, baby.
When people grow, then that means they're getting older.
It does mean they're getting older and getting bigger. Okay. Now hush for a second. I'm going to tell your story, okay? We're joined today by Yoda. So Jacob was born in November. Can you be quiet, please, for a second? So Jacob was born in November. He was a home water birth baby. He was my first home birth. Prior to Jacob, I had had 2 hospital births, both natural vaginal births. One was an induction. You can check out those videos also. But for Jacob, we decided to do things differently. And can you stop, please?
Oh,
I know you were. For Jacob, we decided to do things differently for a couple of reasons. The first was that my hospital births, one, they were very fast. I have what is known as precipitous labors, which means that they just basically progress very quickly from start to finish. Also, we had moved, and so we were living farther away from the hospital where my midwife practice delivered, and I didn't want to try and worry about fighting through traffic and all that to get to the hospital when I went into labor. You know, and my friend had a home birth, Ashley. I was there when she had her baby, and so you know, I wasn't as scared of it, I guess. You got your Yoda?
Creepy.
That's not creepy, it's Yoda.
Yeah, it is Yoda.
Okay. I had previously kind of been scared of the idea of home birth. I was like, well, you know, it's messy, and what do you do if it hurts? But you know, as I'd had 2 children, I wasn't worried about so much the pain management aspect. Okay, can you stop for a second? Hey, look at me. I need you to stop, okay? I wasn't so worried about the pain management aspect of it anymore. And after being at Ashley's birth with Lucy, I wasn't really scared. Like, you know, I realized that it's not messy. It's not, oh my gosh, there's so much to clean up. It's actually quite the opposite. So, and I'll get into that later. But we just basically decided, you know what, let's do this. Whenever I had hospital births, I'd had the baby, there were no complications, it was very textbook, and we always ended up just waiting for the doctors to come back in and sign off, waiting for the nurse to do this and that, and shift change and everything else, just waiting to go home, because there was no reason for us to be there anymore. So we just decided that we were gonna go for a home birth. So we started looking around, and I talked with a couple of home birth midwives and interviewed them. I ended up interviewing with and hiring the same midwife that had been one of the ones that had attended my friend's birth, and you know, so I kind of knew her already, and that was nice. But we kind of established care. It was a little later in the pregnancy. What are you talking about? You're taking Yoda's clothes off. He's got a hole. It was a little later in the pregnancy. As I recall, we met with her on Memorial Day. The first time that we met with Heather and hired her was on Memorial Day, and I don't remember exactly how far along I was. Let's see. I mean, I was probably 12 weeks-ish, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. I was farther along, I guess, than maybe you would be normally, but I had been seeing the midwives at the practice that I had previously been to, and so I'd already had a pregnancy test and a confirmation of pregnancy and things like that, and whatnot. So, yeah, with my pregnancy with Jacob, we had gone through and we had decided to do the home birth. We met with Heather, we hired her. and she's fantastic, by the way. We hired her, and we, you know, we were doing the once every month appointments, I believe. And so I hired her in the end of May. It was the end of May. And so my next appointment was scheduled to be the beginning of July. And I can't remember exactly when it was. Maybe the end of June. Anyway, I saw Heather one time, and I was still under the care of my other midwives because I was paying for Heather out of pocket. And so I was still getting prenatal care for them because I've had traditionally with my pregnancies, I suffer from severe frequent migraines anyway, like just on the regular. And so when I get pregnant, for some people migraines will go away. Mine did not. And so I was seeing the regular midwives because I had already established care with them. I was able to get the pain meds or the relief meds that I needed that were safe to take during pregnancy because I couldn't take my normal medications. So I was seeing them. And then it was July 11th. I was 17 weeks, I believe. And I think it was the day before I turned 18 weeks. But I was 17 weeks pregnant, and I had been out shopping with my sister. I came home and I was putting a roast in the crock pot to be ready to go in the morning, or to simmer low overnight so that we could have roast for dinner the next day. My sister was visiting and my nieces and nephew were here, and everybody went to bed. I was up and I went to the bathroom and was getting ready to get ready for bed and go to bed. Well, when I went to the bathroom, I realized that there was a lot of blood. I was bleeding. So I panicked and I had a cow, and you know, like you do when you're pregnant and you are bleeding. I called my midwife. They basically kind of said, you know, of course come in. Unfortunately, no, if there's something going on, there's not a lot we can do because the baby's not viable, but come in, we'll find out what's going on. You know, it'll be fine, don't worry about it. And so at that point, I woke my husband up as I was explaining to the midwife kind of what was going on. And, you know, I said, we need to go. We need to go to the hospital. And we talked about it, and we decided that my sister would take me because that way my husband would be here if the kids woke up. They wouldn't, you know, he could calm them down and whatnot. And then at least there would be somebody that might be rested the next day to watch our children. So I came and woke my sister up, and I said, you know, I'm bleeding, I need to go to the hospital. We went to the hospital, and I was diagnosed at the time. Jacob was perfectly healthy, obviously. We found out that he was a boy earlier than we anticipated, and my sister was super excited to be there for that. My sister was super excited to be there when we found out he was a boy, but I was diagnosed at the time with a complete placental previa, which basically means so your placenta is normally attached to your uterine wall, you know, somewhere, side, front, back, whatever, top. Mine was posterior, which means it was behind my cervix. So your cervical opening is here, and like this is the back wall, like where your spine is. My placenta was behind, but there was a full lip covering, and the lip of my placenta actually went to the edge of my cervix. So it was a complete previa, but it wasn't like it was just plop dead center. My cervix was completely obscured, but there was hope. So I called my midwife and I let her know, hey, you know, this is what's going on. I don't know what's happening. Obviously, if I have a previa, I can't do a home birth. I love you. Anyway, so that was very nerve-wracking and stressful. Scariest 11 days of my life. They diagnosed us in the emergency room. I went into my doctor for a follow-up, and they basically said, thumbs up, yeah. They basically said, we need you to come back for your regularly scheduled anatomy scan. We'll check the position of your placenta at that time, and we'll go from there. So I went in, you know, and I waited the 11 days between my bleed and my appointment, and just kind of like took it easy, kind of tried to stay off my feet. You know, I was still having some light spotting, but nothing too major. And so we were just kind of playing it by ear. So my home birth, again, was up in the air because I was like, well, I'm not really sure what's going on. So we waited and waited and waited. And fast forward to the 22nd of July. I had a repeat ultrasound. They did a transvaginal ultrasound to check the position of my placenta, which is important because with an abdominal ultrasound, it can appear closer or farther than it actually is, just because it's not as clear of a picture. So when they do the transvaginal ultrasound, they can see a lot closer where your placenta actually is. So they went in and I was very nervous because a posterior Previa is a lot slower to move and less likely to move than a anterior placenta where the front of your uterus is stretching and kind of growing up and it moves out of the way a lot faster. So it was posterior and I was nervous. But we went in, we had the appointment, we did the scan. He was healthy, everything was going good, he looked great, and my placenta had miraculously moved. Now, in order for it to be not diagnosed as like low-lying or at risk, it has to be like 2 centimeters or something away from your cervical, the opening of your cervix, and mine was just under, it was like 1.8. It was so close, but it was moving and it moved fast. That was just in 2 weeks. And so we committed to a recheck, but we decided to go forward with the birth. So fast forward, after being cleared and everything was fine. The rest of my pregnancy was fine. We went through and just kind of, you know, hung out. And that will bring us to the day I had Jacob. So every Sunday for a while, we have gone to my mom's house, or most every Sunday, we've gone to my parents' house and had dinner. And this was no different. We had dinner, we had spaghetti that night. And my mom made dinner and I had eaten some spaghetti, and then I was kind of laying on the floor, the kids were playing. I was laying on the floor, just kind of propped up, you know, watching TV. And I was having Braxton Hicks and they were tight, but they weren't painful at all. But I remember kind of watching and they were very regular. And I was like, well, that's weird. And so I was like, well, let's just go home. I just want to rest and, you know, whatever. So Tim brought us all home and we were just kind of hanging out. Well, my friend Shelly was staying with us at the time, which is fortunate because she's also one of my very, very dear friends and my doula. She was staying with us for a little while at the time, and so she was here with us. Her and her husband said, well, you know, we'll watch the kids, whatever, you go do your thing. So we got the kids settled in bed.
Can I say something?
Yes, dear.
When it was the time, then my dad put me to bed.
That's true, Daddy does put you to bed at bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
So we put the kids to bed, and Shelly and Mike watched the kids while Tim and I decided to go for a walk, just to kind of try and see, you know, maybe if things would get moving. I was 38-ish weeks, like 38 weeks and 2 days. I don't know. It was 9 or 10 days before my estimated due date, which was really close to Thanksgiving. And so I was kind of glad. It was a Sunday night. Thanksgiving was that coming Thursday. And I had been joking that he either needed to stay in or get out because I wasn't missing my apple pie. So I was a little excited when I thought maybe this is it. Well, we went for a walk, and guys, it was the most disgusting day. It was windy as all get out. It was raining, like the rain was blowing sideways. It was awful. But we went for a walk. I had my big giant like starter jacket from the 80s, like raincoat, or the 90s, like giant puffy goose down jacket on, and we were just kind of sloughing it through, and we came home, and at that point my contractions had kind of stopped. I didn't feel anything. I was kind of bummed. I took a warm bath. Shelly rubbed my feet, and I was just kind of committed to, you know, this being it. Or not being it. So we went, Tim went into the garage. He was doing some schoolwork, and that's where his computer was at the time. Just 1 second, please, okay? That's where my computer was at, or his computer was at the time. So he was doing his schoolwork. What, baby? What?
When it was morning, I woke up, and then when it's night, I needed to brush my teeth and then go to bed.
That's true.
And then last, I needed to hang my glasses up.
Oh, that's true, because we don't sleep in our glasses, right? That's good. Okay. So, yes, Tim was in the garage where his computer was doing his, it's like a test or something for school. I don't even remember. And I was sitting out on the back porch. We actually had a couple couches out back on the back porch, and Shelly and I were just sitting out there sipping coffee, just kind of relaxing and, you know, listening to the ridiculous monsoon that was going on in front of us. And we we're just hanging out, and my sister called. It was 10 o'clock, about 10 o'clock when my sister called. And she said, Brookie, who's my niece, she says, Brookie says you need to have the baby, like soon, because they really wanted to come down and visit, but my sister, she was coming down for Thanksgiving, but then she had, she was scheduled to have back surgery, and she really wanted, you know, to be here, but if the baby came, if it came too late, then she wasn't gonna be able to make it because she had her surgery coming up. So we were hoping that he would come and my sister would be able to get down. Well, so she had said, you know, Brookie says have the baby right now. And I said, well, you know, I'll get right on that, Brookie. You know, like, what am I gonna do about it? And I hung up the phone with her and I was talking to Shelly, and then, like, I remember so clearly, I was sitting on the couch and I was wearing leggings and I was wearing Tim's bathrobe. And I was all wrapped up in it. And I had my legs kind of tucked under me. And I sneezed. And then I felt this weird pressure, and then there was this popping feeling, and it was warm and it was everywhere. And I looked at Shelly and I said, my water just broke. Now this is not a feeling that I had, honey, stop please. You're shaking the camera. This is not a feeling that I have ever experienced really to that extent before, because my water with Emma broke when I was waddling back to the bed, and with Alex they ruptured it for me. So my water broke, and I told Shelly, and she went, oh, you know, and she kind of like was like, okay. So she got up, and it was 10:08. It was like a few minutes after I got off the phone with my sister. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And so I was like, I think I'm gonna go take a shower. And I had gotten the birth tub ready that day. I'd put the liner in and the sheets and everything and taped up. It was all ready to go. It was just in the garage. And so I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. I jumped in the shower, which retrospectively was stupid. But I jumped in the shower. I was like, I'm just gonna take a shower, wash this off, whatever. I got in the shower. I took a quick shower, washed my hair. Shelly braided it for me. It was very nice. She walked in and told Tim, Amy's water broke. And he's like, haha, okay. And she's like, no, like, seriously, like, it broke, get up. And so it was like, oh, okay. And so then, you know, everybody kind of jumped up and started moving and getting things done. We called my sister back and said, Amy's water broke. She's like, what? Okay. And like, no, really, we're doing this right now. She's like, oh, okay, great. And so after that, we called my mom and let her know what was going on. And this, like I said, was 10:08. And so my mom had been called, the midwife had been called, I was in the shower. I started having contractions once my water broke. I hadn't really had anything painful up until that point. I started having contractions right away. They were about 7 minutes apart. So Shelly called a couple times just to check and see where the midwife was. Like, hey, what's going on? We got the birth tub set up. Retrospectively with the shower, it was awful because I used most of the hot water, or enough of the hot water that we couldn't fill the birth tub with warm water. So we ended up filling it with as hot of water as possible. And then when it ran out, there was some cold water in there, but Mike, Shelly's husband, whom we had woken up to help bring in the birth tub, him and Tim brought it in, and they were running back and forth with boiling. They had boiled pots of water, got it as hot as possible, and then poured them in to warm it up. And so I was in the tub laboring at that point. And things progressed pretty quickly. I had a few contractions, and then I kind of got into the point where I was in transition. I was like, okay, I can't do this, it's so hard, you know, all the normal kind of things that you do that I had experienced from, you know, reading and having birthed 2 babies, and I was just, it was very much, oh my gosh, what have I done? What have I done? I'm here in this tub in my house. There's no doctors here. And there was that moment of panic because we've spent so much time these days kind of classifying birth as like an emergency or a medical condition, or, you know, something that's not normal or natural that needs to be treated. And pregnancy doesn't need to be treated, it just happens. So anyway, we worked through, and I don't even remember what time it was that the midwives got there, but they got there and we were all just kind of chit-chatting. They sat, and there were 3 of them that came. And they just kind of hung out and did their thing, and you know, they were chit-chatting with my mom and with Shelly, and Shelly was doing some counter pressure massage for me, and you know, Tim was there, and I was just kind of very laid back. I was in the living room and I was rocking on the birth ball. I was on my hands and knees on the ground, and then, you know, kind of leaning over the ball for contractions. And then I had gotten in the tub, and I totally did that out of order just now, but anyway. I had gotten in the tub and I was kind of laboring, and that went very quickly, and I rolled over and I was like, okay, here we go. Like the baby's coming. I pushed maybe twice and he was born. My little baby boy came out. When he was born, how much did you weigh?
3.
3?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be so small. When he was born, he weighed 8 pounds and 4 ounces. And he was 19.5 inches long. So he was
Mommy,
like my middle baby up to that point. Emma had been...
I'm 3 points long.
Oh, 3 points long? Okay, he's 3 points long. But he was, you know, just very average sized, super adorable. Didn't have a lot of hair. He had about as much, well, he had less hair than Alex, but more than Lily. My kids have gotten progressively more bald as they've gone. Emma had tons of hair, Alex had a fair amount, Jacob had some hair, and Lily was practically bald. But he came out, the cord was wrapped around once, and so the midwife just kind of unlooped it and continued on with what they were doing. Please don't unbutton my shirt, we're on camera. But yeah, he was born, it was 9:47, so, or 9:43. No, 9:40.
Mommy.
9:47? My water broke at, no, I'm sorry, that was Lily. Jacob was born at 10:43 or 10:47. Now I gotta check.
Born
just after midnight. So it was about 2 hours,
midnight,
2.5 hours. Midnight. 2.5 hours start to finish, and he came out. And it was fantastic. It was my first experience. Can you stop for a second? It was my first experience with home birth, and it was fantastic. They cleaned everything up. They put a load of laundry in for me. You would never even know that there was a baby born there, except for that there was a baby there. I didn't have to get out of bed. My midwife brought me food in my bed and, you know, let me sit there and drink my juice and eat my food while she checked up on us. You're silly. You're silly. Well, she checked up on us, and, you know, they came back for the visits after. It was just really amazing. It was very calming, and it was a very stress-free situation. And I'm really glad that we decided to take that route and do a home birth. And I would absolutely do a home birth again any day, barring complications. And obviously, if it's not something you're comfortable with, it's not something that you should do. But I think if it's something that you're considering, it's totally worthwhile to look into it. There was no stress, there were no doctors, I got a lot more rest, and it was so exciting because Emma had woken up and she came in and saw him, and it actually took us quite a while to get her settled in, but Alex didn't even wake up. He didn't know that Jacob had been born, and so we brought Jacob out to meet Alex. We said, sit down buddy, we got something to show you, and we brought Jacob out, and he was just, oh my goodness, like so excited. I'll try and find the picture actually and insert it. It was just precious. It was so precious. So yeah, that is the story of how this sweet boy came to be. He is, without a doubt, a special, amazing little child. And he was here for his baby sister's birth too, huh? In fact, his baby sister was born in the same tub that he was born in, with the same midwife, huh? Yep. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jacob?
Yeah.
What?
When I was born, and also when I needed to go to the bathroom, then I go, and then I was eating breakfast and getting ready to go to school.
Okay. Well, that's the story, and we hope that you enjoyed. If you want to check out our other birth videos, those will be those are already available, so check out my page, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.